Although Meemaw's secret gambling room was always bad news in young Sheldon, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage episode 19 made her side hustle a serious issue for its central couple. In young Sheldon's finale, Georgie and Mandy were happily married and raising their first child together. When The Big Bang Theory Season 11, Episode 23, The Sibling Realignment, introduced Georgie, he mentioned an ex-wife in passing. Thus, as the title of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage implies, young Sheldon's spin-off needed to explain this discrepancy. The inevitable split between Georgie and Mandy in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage is unavoidable since it was already set in stone by The Big Bang Theory before young Sheldon even began. However, the question of why and how the breakup happened, and whether it left any room for potential reconciliation, remains open. Most recently, Episode 19, Snitch v. Deadbeat, makes Georgie's grandmother Meemaw seem like a potential culprit. Meemaw's continued gambling scheme causes issues in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. Jim's debt to Meemaw causes a war between the McAllister and Cooper families. In Snitch v. Deadbeat, Meemaw informs Mandy that her father owes her more than $1,000 thanks to bad bet. When Mandy's attempts to get the money prove too slow for her liking, Meemaw calls Audrey and causes a huge, protracted battle between the Cooper and McAllister families. Much like Dale and Meemaw's relationship is worse in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage than it was in young Sheldon, Georgie and Sheldon's grandmother is even more abrasive and addicted to conflict in the spin-off. Eventually, Georgie averted disaster by using his money to pay off Meemaw, although no one thanked him for his efforts. However, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage highlighted how much Memo's toxic behavior caused Mandy and Georgie trouble, as it was her illegal sportsbook betting scheme that caused all the problems in the first place. Meemaw got something of a free pass when the debt was repaid. Audrey didn't report her to the police, and only Mandy and Georgie ended up in a worse financial position by the time the entire affair had reached its end. Meemaw not giving up gambling means she didn't learn her lesson in young Sheldon. Meemaw's gambling scheme proves first marriage hasn't changed her character. Young Sheldon's supporting star Meemaw often caused conflict among the Coopers back when Georgie was working in her earlier gambling backroom, but she seemed to change her tune after meeting with her strict parole officer. Since The Big Bang Theory's version of Meemaw was so much more sedate and subdued, it seemed like the spin-off was setting her up for a character change after her gambling room was raided. Throughout young Sheldon's 7 seasons, Meemaw was both irrepressibly rebellious and entirely self-interested. Meemaw seemed to calm down and start focusing on her family after her young Sheldon Season 7 arrest, so it is notable that Georgie and Mandy's first marriage undid this completely with its sportsbook subplot. What Meemaw's refusal to stop gambling can get Georgie and Mandy in serious trouble. Georgie and Mandy's division over the sportsbook scheme hurts their relationship. Aside from the dangers of being caught gambling, Georgie and Mandy have very different takes on the entire existence of Meemaw's controversial betting business. Georgie, having weathered the storm of an earlier raid, isn't fond of gambling or the legal risks involved. Mandy, meanwhile, sees it as a lucrative way to keep their family fed. At this point, the last thing that Mandy and Georgie need is another reason to fight. Meemaw's first marriage gambling story was always likely to end in tears when she employed Mandy, and it predictably brought out an unwelcome side of Georgie's love interest. However, that is exactly what Meemaw provides in Snitch v. Deadbeat. Meemaw's first marriage gambling story was always likely to end in tears when she employed Mandy, and it predictably brought out an unwelcome side of Georgie's love interest. The question now is whether this will be the specific straw that breaks the proverbial camel's back and causes their divorce, or if young Sheldon's spin-off will find another, bigger problem to divide the pair as Georgie and Mandy's first marriage continues.